What's up, everybody? It's Jimmy that guy, and as you probably already know, I'm currently in Australia, which is kind of crazy because the Olympics just passed for breaking. Breaking made its debut in the Olympics, and I just happened to be here during that time when breaking was in the Olympics, and B-girl Ray Gun went viral on the internet, which is kind of I guess strange because I get a personal perspective of the Australian breaking scene, of Reagan, and of her peers and comrades and other people in Australia. So I can give that kind of insight and perspective. So it's kind of crazy to be vlogging for breaking's debut in the Olympics and the Australian B girl to go viral while I'm here. So I feel like I get a very unique perspective. When I first arrived in Australia, there was only two people that I kind of knew. One, who's an OG legend from Style Elements crew, who had been living in Australia for the past few years, and then Willis Strait, who is one of the most famous Australian b-boys, probably the most famous Australian b-boy. He's the only Australian b-boy I ever knew. Before I came, I had messaged them and asked if they can connect me with any contacts in Australia. And one of the people they connected me to was Raygun. So I've added her, followed her, messaged her about sessioning, and didn't make or have any time to practice with her because she was busy and I was busy. Um, Getting my life together in Australia, trying to get a job and a car and everything, getting settled. And I guess she was preparing for the Olympics at the time. Well, fast forward, I moved from Sydney and I moved to Brisbane, and I meet the breaking community out here, and I end up getting a job working for B Girl Flicks, aka Leah. Shout out to Leah, she's amazing. Really, she took care of me and really hooked me and Angie up with jobs and work. Um, so yeah, I ended up working for her, and then I ended up going to some of the sessions and meeting some of the local breakers and dancers and shit like that. And then I actually managed to go to like one jam when I first got here. We just dropped our shit off at the Airbnb. We flew in, didn't get no sleep the whole night, and then just went straight to the jam just because I wanted to get involved in the breaking scene right away. Um, my first impressions of the scene, especially at that time, they had a B girl battle and a one-on-one breaking like B-boy battle, and the B girl battle, I right away knew like the level was lower. Um, some of the better B girls here were from Ukraine, Chile, and Japan. The best B girl that I've seen here so far is like a 12-year-old girl. She's an amazing Japanese B girl, Australian born, but her parents are Japanese, and her crewmates or her mentors are Japanese, and she's obviously Japanese, but Australian born. So yeah, she soon will be one of the best to come out of Australia. But she was amazing. She's really dope. Great power, good flow, knows how to break, has the breaking attitude. But the rest of the B girls, to me, based off what I seen, was just like their level is a little lower than other scenes. That's what I noticed right away, which is okay. That's fine because B girls in general are a little lower level than B boys typically, right? You have the high world class B girls, the one, for example, the ones in the Olympics, like maybe the top six B girls they're just elite, high level world class B girls. Um, the rest are okay, and then you have Ray Gun. So when I had came here and I wanted to know who was gonna go be representing in the Olympics, I looked them up and I saw clips of Ray Gun, and that was one of the things I thought was like I didn't think she was that good at breaking. I mean, that just be real and be honest. Like I don't think her skills were up to par with the rest of the B girls and the world class level. So then I was wondering and I asked around the breaking scene kind of here, without directly asking about Reagan, but I was just kind of curious, like, hey, what was the like process of like picking somebody for the Olympics out here? You know, like how did it work? How did the Olympics work? Like, how did she end up going to? This is before the Olympics even took place. I was already asking these questions, and they pretty much said that um, each continent needed to be represented. So that's how come she ended up going. All right. So cool, whatever. Olympics go by, Olympics come, and then the day goes by, and then the next day I wake up after the first day, B-girl battles, and Ray Gun is all over the internet, going viral. And then I see her rounds, and then I'm like, why was she breaking like that? Like, I mean, I seen footage. She doesn't really, she's not great, but she was dancing, doing a lot of really interesting burns and trying to have a lot of character, but it wasn't hitting right. And then I had talked to some of the people the next day at the session, and what they were telling me was that her style in breaking is influenced by her husband, and then that they believe in more of originality, the original style, and things like that, like all about being original and creating new moves. And then it made sense to me. Then it all makes sense, and that's pretty much what all this is, anyways. One, Australia doesn't have a strong breaking scene. Uh, a couple people stand out for sure, but it's definitely the average breaker out here is a little lower than the rest of the world. Two, the B girls are going to be even weaker. There's a couple good, decent girls on average, a lot weaker than the rest of the world. Three, her style and breaking, right? Breaking has multiple different styles. You got people who prefer to do power moves, people who do press power, which is like more calisthenics and planches, people who do footwork only, people who like to top rock and dance a lot, and people are all about musicality. And you got abstract b-boys who prefer flexibility and putting their leg over their head and things like that. So there's like different styles in breaking. And there's the traditional style, like the New York style of breaking, the original Bronx style, that the flavor and the form of the b-boy look, the b-girl look, the breaker look. Um and from seeing her husband and from seeing the way she breaks, then it makes sense. And then everyone telling me that they're really big on originality, then it makes sense, because I not only when I started breaking there was a big push for originality, but I was also heavily influenced and around crews and b-boys that practice that style a lot. For example, in my city, the Inland Empire, where I'm from in California, the IE, we have a crew called Circus Runaways. That's literally what the style is called. It's called circus style. And Circus Runaways is one of the innovators of that style, particularly guys like Josh and guys like Law. And then I'm really good friends. I mean, super, super close to a crew from San Diego called Freak Show, who are pretty much the same thing. A lot of flexible moves and tricks and blow ups. And that's the thing about that style. It's not necessarily traditional breaking. And there was a big argument and fight over if that was even breaking at all. And also, on top of that, the way that style's typically done is, yes, they're trying their best to do original, never before done moves. And they typically do their rounds with a lot of crazy tricks and blow ups. It's all about doing a crazy blow up at the end that makes the crowd scream. So then typically that style doesn't really work. I mean, it worked. I mean, not really. The style isn't going to be as impressive without the blow ups. So there's definitely a lot of people who were inspired by that style, but they were missing that part of the style. They would just do a lot of little original moves and what Reveal would call it in the 90s, they call it eye candy style. So like little like face threads and things like that. But that style is not very impressive without the blow ups. And then another thing is that whole style is all about being original, but sometimes it would look really corny or weird, because just because something is original doesn't mean that it's good, doesn't mean that it's dope. And that was a big issue with that style back then, and that's a big issue even today. Like, if you're gonna break and you want to be original, yes, that's a big part of breaking, and that should be one of the most important things in breaking, is being original. But it has to look good, it has to look dope. You can't just do things. You can just like, oh, you know, grab my knee or something, like, I don't know, some random, like, I grabbed my hair when I did it. It's like, that doesn't make it dope. It's about making it look dope and being original. So just because something original is original doesn't mean it's dope, and just because something is original doesn't mean it's breaking. Because I could go in my round and I could start doing popping and say I'm original, but now I'm not even breaking no more. I'm just popping. So it still has to look like breaking. It has to be dope, and it also, of course, has to be original. And I think that's where, for the general public, like in breaking, yeah, we're used to seeing, like what a lot of people mentioned, we're used to seeing a lot of skill levels in one event. You go to an event, you're gonna see the top tier, high level, elite, world class breakers, b boys and b girls, and in the same sentence, and in the same event, and even in the same bracket, you're gonna have someone who's a complete beginner. That happens sometimes, mainly because breaking is such a small sport. It's such a small scene. Some of these events are so small, local events and jams and battles, that you're not gonna get only world class people. Only big, big, big events you get that, like freestyle session. All the top 16 is gonna be some crazy high level people, but that's because people from all over the world gather for that event. But a typical local event, you're gonna get a variety of skill levels. Um, so with that being said, in Australia, not a high level breaking. Then her style and her husband's style are all about originality, which can look weird and strange to the general public. So seeing that for the first time for people, they were probably very weirded out. And I understand she was trying to emphasize originality, but without any blowups and without the original moves looking really dope. It missed. The style didn't hit, it didn't impress people, and then it caused the general public to be like, what the hell? Um, so me learning that from her, the people and breaking here on the scene, then I kind of understood what went wrong. Another thing was that her husband was judging and all this stuff. They had 9 judges for the Oceania qualifier, which is the one that ultimately sent her to the Olympics. Her husband wasn't involved in that. They had like 9 judges from all over the world, Korea and U.S. and some from Australia and Japan and whatever. Her husband wasn't part of that, so she won that fair and square, and she went to Australia. I mean, to Paris for the Olympics. But there was like these little qualifiers that they had before that, which ended up not mattering. They just scrapped it. But some of those events, her husband was judging, and she did win. But at the end of the day, it ended up not mattering anyways, because they didn't go with any of those qualifiers or anything like that. They just decided that they were gonna pick whoever's going to the Olympics from that one event, where the 9 judges were there, and they were all from different countries, which to me is that was more fair. If they had done it with the previous little qualifiers or battles that they had going, and her husband was judging, then yeah, I mean, I could see it being kind of shady. But the fact that they scrapped it altogether, none of those points or none of that counted, and they just said, hey, whoever wins this big Oceania qualifier event is going to represent the Olympics. See, and the thing is with that is, like, one event to decide who's going to the Olympics is kind of shitty, but that's also because of the lack of funding and breaking in general. The government doesn't care about breaking. Doesn't matter where you live. The government doesn't give a fuck. So getting funding for breaking is pretty much impossible. And the people organizing events for breaking are going to be people on the scene, like local people from the scene. So sometimes, if you want to set up a national team or send someone to the Olympics and no one else is doing it, you're going to have to do it yourself. I'm not saying that's what she did, but what I'm saying is that the community is so small that She's probably in one way or another directly involved in the process of creating a team for the Olympics in Australia. Just because breaking here is so small, breaking in general is so small, and the lack of funding, the lack of care in general. Like, this is the Olympics. I'm sure in Australia, the sailing team and the, I don't know, whatever their sport they have, gymnastics and um, pole vaulting or whatever, those athletes had world class trainers and had access to the Olympic training facility. Breaking and the breakers in the Olympics and the breaking athletes had zero access to any of that. They weren't invited to go train. They weren't sponsored. They weren't asked. They didn't go. You know, weren't involved in any of the training from the Olympics training facilities. So what did they have to do? They had to train on their own. They had to come up with the skills on their own. They had to come up with the money on their own. Everything like that. So it's not as easy as you think, or as simple as you think. For most sports, it is that way, but breaking isn't one of those sports. They don't care about breaking that much. There's no funding for it. There's lack of care or consideration for the athletes. So the athletes are gonna have to figure it out on their own, which leaves someone like Reagan, who won the qualifier, who's gonna go represent the Olympics, who could have probably possibly increased her skills or got even more ready for the event, but with the lack of, you know, proper training and proper care from the athletic organizations out here, that's what you got. You know, you have her going to the Olympics with whatever skills she had when she got there, and she ended up going viral because of the difference in level. So I just wanted to touch up on that because I am in Australia currently right now. This is 2024 Brisbane. I'm in Brisbane right now. The Olympics just passed. First breakers to get Olympics medals. The first ever gold medalist, Ami, and then first Bboy to ever get gold, Phil Wizard, and then we got the American representing, you know, Victor getting bronze, and then all the other medalist athletes. Congratulations to all of them, and just all the Olympians that got to represent. Pretty dope for breaking. Breaking's not going to be in the Olympics for LA 2028. It was already announced a long time ago that they weren't going to put it in, way before the Olympic event even happened. You know, we in the break community had already known about this for about a year before the Olympics took place. Then there's also, before the Olympics took place, there was already rumors that they were going to start preparing for 2032 to try and get breaking in there. With whatever happened with Reagan, it might be a little more difficult depending on how Australia feels about it. If they want to give it another try and host it and maybe prove that they can have a stronger representation in the Olympics for breaking, then maybe they'll put it back in there. We'll see. I think we're gonna try and give it our best shot to try and be in the Olympics for 2032. I'm in Brisbane right now, and that's literally where it's gonna be in 2032, in Brisbane. So hopefully breaking gets back in there, and we can get some more medalists and Olympians. And yeah, just an update on what I'm doing. I haven't been vlogging a lot because we've been just doing the same stuff pretty much every day. I'm just working. Um, got just saving up. Gonna start exploring Australia first, but we have to get our shit together. So it's hard to get around, so we need a car. So saved up and got a car. Need a job because we're trying to save up, obviously, so we can travel the world and travel around Australia. So got a job finally. Angie just got a job. And then, of course, just training, breaking, and getting ready for any events that are coming up. And then once I feel like I've killed it in breaking out here, won a couple events, I want to start training in jiu-jitsu and then win some jiu-jitsu events as well. Um, and then just hitting the gym and just getting everything settled so I can start actually taking time out and exploring Australia, Brisbane and Queensland and all these surrounding areas, and vlogging it. Should be going to New Zealand in November for a wedding, one of my friends' weddings, and vlog that as well. New Zealand's gonna be exciting. So yeah, just a lot to come, a lot happening, and just wanted to give that update. And this is a long ass video vlog update. So peace.